My name is Sarah Ling. I'm Exhibition and Program Manager at the Chinese Canadian Museum. Welcome to our temporary gallery here at the Han Sing Building at 27 East Pender, and we're here at our newest exhibition, Seeds to Success, Story of the H Y Louie Family. So who is H Y Louie? Well, H Y Louie was Hok Yat Louie. He came to Canada at the age of only 22 years old in 1898 and had to pay the head tax like thousands of other Chinese men at the time. And he didn't speak a word of English. He actually started out in the farming industry. So with two other Chinese men began a farm very close to Boundary Road in Burnaby. And during his long journeys, because he was the man who delivered the produce to stores and merchants in Vancouver, Chinatown, during those long journeys, he actually taught himself English using a Chinese English phrase book. And so you can just picture him on that horse with his wagon, bringing produce day and night, going back to the farm to help harvest. So he really started his journey here in Canada literally from the ground up. After a few years, he decided to open a company in 1903 in Chinatown. At that time, it was called the Kwong Chong Company. And he did have a business partner, but I suppose his business partner wasn't as resilient and decided not to carry forward. But Hok Yat did carry that journey forward and eventually called it the H Y Louie Company. I think he had the foresight that it was going to be a family business. When his wife joined him, Mrs. Young Shi, they actually raised 11 children at their residence and warehouse at 255 East Georgia Street. Today it's more known as Harley's Produce, but that was their first humble abode. Quite a small headquarter, but they managed to raise 11 amazing children, eventually had enough money to open a much larger facility at 254 East Georgia. But that was really the beginning of Hok Yat's journey and very long legacy in Chinatown. The legacies of the H Y Louie family are really all around us, and you might not even realize it. In this exhibition, we show how one of H Y Louie's sons, Tong Louie, really took the helm of the company in 1955 and was really innovative and entrepreneurial himself. And so Tong Louie acquired London Drugs and purchased at that time what was 10 locations. The business now has 78 locations across the country, and I think it's an everyday name that people can identify with. So London Drugs is part of the H Y Louie family legacy. Tong Louie also acquired the Independent Grocers Alliance, more well known as IGA. And so that's yet another company that many of us can speak to picking up groceries or other products that we need. And again, it's the H Y Louie family that's behind that brand. More recently, in 2018, Tong's son, Brant Louie, who is now the third generation to carry forward the company, established what is called the Georgia Main Food Group. And so they did a bit of a rebranding, choosing that name to pay homage to their grandfather's original roots here in Vancouver, Chinatown, because their first residence and warehouse was at 255 East Georgia. So the Georgia Main Food Group is the umbrella company for both IGA and their most recent establishment, the Fresh Street Market. There is a timeline in the exhibition called Growth Through the Seasons, and I called it that because I wanted to really focus on Hok Yat's beginnings here in Vancouver, Chinatown. So the timeline doesn't begin when he landed in Canada, but when he first established that first business in 1903 on Georgia Street. And then it carries forward to 2022, today, the present moment, when his grandson Brant and his sons Gregory and Stuart are leading forward the company with those same values, with some of the same hardships. We see anti-Asian racism on the rise. It's really interesting to look back at the timeline and the specific moments and hardships that we can reflect upon, but then to compare it with what's happening to today and see that it may be 100 years later, but things haven't changed quite so much. The challenges we see might not be as overt or direct, but they're certainly still there. And so that timeline really provides snapshots of significant moments throughout these past 4 generations, and how we started with one seed, but that seed has continued to grow and manifest in a really beautiful way. And it hasn't only been for the legacy of the Louie family, but really for the community at large, because they've given back in so many different ways as well. Family values are really core to the H Y Louie family, and Hok Yat instilled those values not only when he raised his children, but in the lessons that he literally left behind. There are letters that Hok Yat wrote that the family has kept to this day, and in the words of Brant Louie, have really become the mantra for how they conduct not only their everyday life, but the integrity of their corporations. So they really are what he feels are the seeds to their success, that they've been able to hold true to those values. So some of those values that we can see in the letters that Hok Yat wrote, and just in the ways that he had conducted himself and gave back to the community, are to be kind, to be charitable, to always give back to the community. He actually told his children it was their duty to give back, because he really involved all of his children in those early days of the H Y Louie company. But he knew that they would take it on. I think that's the foresight that he had when he named the company H Y Louie. It was going to be a family legacy, but he told them that it was their duty to give back. He also told them not to participate in ill deeds, not to stray away from these family values despite whatever challenges they might encounter. And so I think those values have really shaped the company, and I think it's really shined in the way that we see the H Y Louie family continue to grow, to establish organizations like the London Drugs Foundation, and how they participated in many other significant charitable causes and events, and how present day generations of the Louie family, like Brant, like his sons, continue to give their time back to the community. Those are just a few of the examples in how those family values have really shaped their legacy. So in many ways, the exhibition highlights the discriminatory policies that have really shaped the society that we see today here in Canada. Hok Yat himself was one of several thousand men to pay the head tax when he first arrived, but he didn't let that stop him from being a good person, from being charitable. And so when he was successful enough to establish his business and to make an earnest income, he actually loaned money to other men that couldn't afford to pay off that tax right away. And I think many people are aware of the Chinese societies and associations that were established with major clan names like Wang or Ma or Chan. But Hok Yat actually established his own group. He encouraged other businessmen to meet in his residence at 255 East Georgia, and they would meet every Sunday. And he really became a mentor for others in the society and in the Vancouver Chinatown community, who were also overcoming a lot of challenges due to those direct discriminatory policies. In 1907, just 4 years after he opened his first business, the anti-Asian race riot occurred, and there are many businesses that were vandalized and targeted during those rioting acts. And so this exhibit also highlights the damages and the losses that were reported, but of course the emotional and physical damage was much more severe. And so that's something that, it's really hard to fathom, but that we can see parallels to the present day. Over the past few years, there has been a surge in anti-Asian racism. And so to connect the past to the present, in their interview with Brant Louie, he speaks about how he's felt this own personal conviction to participate in a national campaign against anti-Asian racism. And, not only his father experienced it, not only his grandfather experienced it, not only has he experienced it, but many others in Canada are speaking up against the ways in which we have been subject to anti-Asian racism. So this exhibition was put together over the course of several months by myself, but also with the support of a curatorial advisor, so Catherine Clement, who has done wonderful work in the community, as well as a curatorial committee consisting of board of directors from the Chinese Canadian Museum. There was one, I think, pivotal resource that really supported the research phase of this project, and it was the story on Tong Louie's life. The book is called Tong Louie, Story of Vancouver's Quiet Titan, a very fitting title. And in this book, Tong shared a lot of his memories and experiences firsthand to the author, Ernest Perot. And it's an incredible memoir on the challenges that Hok Yat Louie had to face, but also a lot of the memories that Tong has between a father and son, which I think provide us a really intimate look at what it's like to carry forward a family business and what those dynamics are like. And so many of the stories from the research came from that resource. For this project, I was also very fortunate to speak with and be advised by Brant Louie. He did an exclusive interview for this exhibit called Seeds to Success, and so we did sit down with him to hear him share his stories. Brant's cousin, Brian Louie, was generous in loaning a family collection, a family album that they had put together several years ago, and it's an amazing archive of those early photographs that were taken of H Y Louie's family and their interactions in and around Vancouver Chinatown. At that time, there were very few cameras, and so it's really nice to have this rich archive to work with. And yeah, so we were really fortunate to work with members of the family. There are a few artifacts that have been loaned for display, including one of Tong Louie's many pipes that he had in his collection, and also some replica letters that were produced by the Royal BC Museum of letters that Hok Yat wrote to his son back in 1934. So it's really nice to have these special elements that speak to the character of these men and their personalities. We invite all of you to view our newest exhibition, Seeds to Success, as well as A Tale of Two Families. Our exhibitions are on display from May until December of 2022. For free admission and more information, please visit our website, ChineseCanadianMuseum.ca.